I like that little noise. It pleases me.
Wait, can you pause it 1 second, please?
Why, are you going to have a coughing fit?
I might. I've been really badly coughing. Oh, please don't say this is going on. But I've been really badly coughing. So if I cough halfway through, can I just take myself out, please?
Well, you can leave the room. I don't need to take yourself out. It's a bit extreme. Yes. Yes, of course you can.
Please can this be a new video?
Can we do something with the blind?
Actually, we can't, Nicole, because otherwise there won't be enough light for this to work. So you might just have to move. Yeah. So, okay. 43 seconds of pure waffle. What are the 3 S's? Oh, in fact, before that, what do we write? Rejection. What do we write at the top of this? What's the question that we write at the top of the unseen extract? How do I know this is dystopian? That's what we write every single time, and we're looking for the features of the genre that we're familiar with, and we can only know what those features are by doing wider reading, which is why I set up the Dystopian Book Club, so that you could get access to wider reading. I've just marked a set of second-year unseen essays that I gave them as a cheeky little surprise last week, and I did have to keep writing on them. You need to move beyond The Handmaid's Tale in 1984. A couple of them mentioned The Road. What other wider reading can you access if you are refusing to read any other books? The other extracts that we've given you. Yeah, the other extracts. I really enjoyed Book Club last week. It was really good. So, I've just printed this one out because I'd left my booklet in the office. I don't know why I didn't pick it up when I went to get these. So, it gives us a little bit of a précis at the top. What are the 3 S's that we're going to do? Skim, scan, scour. So I'm going to write that at the top. And what characterises those 3 things? What's different? The first one you're reading through to get the gist. The second one, you're starting to look for quotes, features. And then the third one, you're narrowing down your quotations and you're thinking about your detailed AO2. How long, Logan, have you got for this question? Ooh, no, not 25 minutes. Hannah? I'm catching people who are doing frowny faces. How long you got for this question, Nicole? How long you got for this question? 1 hour and 15. Got 2.5 hours for paper 2, 2 questions, 1 hour and 15. How much of that time do I want you to spend reading and planning? At least 15 minutes. If I were to be in that exam hall and see you lot starting to write after 5 minutes, I'd cry. Okay? It's really, really important that you give yourselves the time. Okay, so I'm going to read the first paragraph. You've all read and prepped this already, and then you're going to tell me what to go back and highlight. So I'm doing the skim, scan, scour all at once because you've kind of done it for me already. This is from High Rise by J.G. Ballard, and it is a story about a luxury apartment block where people live on different levels according to their wealth, and the whole kind of system, the social structure and system within this apartment block has started to disintegrate, to deteriorate. It's all gone a little bit pear-shaped. It's an unusual kind of dystopia in that the dystopia is absolutely self-contained to this one building. When his sister had gone, Lang began to prepare for his visit to the medical school. Sitting on the kitchen floor, he looked up at the unwashed plates and utensils stacked in the sink. He was leaning comfortably against a plastic sack filled with rubbish. Seeing the kitchen from this unfamiliar perspective, he realised how derelict it had become. The floor was strewn with debris, scraps of food and empty cans. To his surprise, Lang counted 6 garbage sacks. For some reason, he had assumed that there was only one. So, I'm ready with my highlighter. Who's starting me off? Robbie.
Highlight the plastic sack filled with rubbish.
Yeah.
Begins the motif of rubbish that's throughout the rest of the extract.
So there's like a motif of like dirt, decay building up. Lovely. Anything else in that paragraph?
The fact he's going to medical school shows his like status, like education.
Good. Ellie.
I was just thinking about how, I don't know if this is like, they counted 6 garbage bags, but then for some reason he only thought there was one. How like the dystopian has an effect on people's perspective, and like although it's like a minor thing, like, the outlook of like 6 compared to 1. Like,
Yep. Yep, that's right. That's good. Poppy?
Just like the description of his environment is kind of dystopian, is usually like the environment goes against the character.
So the idea of setting environment as an antagonist.
Yeah, it kind of presents conflict.
What? You're right, but then there's something else in this text that makes you kind of go, hang on, but what about, there's a word there, Poppy.
Oh, I didn't have a word, but it was like it's his rubbish, and then could you talk about how the people are like subdued to the dystopian, like.
Right, so they're acclimatised, accustomed to it, yes. Annie? It is, isn't it? So you're right. But is that a sense of like being accustomed, kind of an indoctrination to the surroundings? Anything else? Okay, let's move on. Lang wiped his hands on his dirt-stained trousers and shirt. Reclining against this soft bed of his own waste, he felt like going to sleep. With an effort, he roused himself. A continuous decline had been taking place for some time, a steady erosion of standards that affected not only the apartment but his own personal habits and hygiene. To some extent, this was forced on him by the intermittent water and electricity supply, the failure of the garbage disposal system. But it also reflected a falling interest in civilised conventions of any kind. None of his neighbours cared what food they ate. Neither Lang nor his friends had prepared a decent meal for weeks, and had reached the point where they opened a can at random whenever they felt hungry. By the same token, no one cared what they drank, interested only in getting drunk as quickly as possible and blunting whatever sensibilities were left to them. Lang had not played one of his carefully built-up library of records for weeks. Even his language had begun to coarsen. Right, we've got a rich paragraph to explore there. Annie's going to start us off.
I was at the buildings to like 1984 with the failure of the garbage disposal, like the elevator not working.
Right.
And like the language coarsening was like used to restricting the way they.
Brilliant. So in 1984, we see this everything's broken down. The system is failing. And he notices his language had begun to coarsen. Good. Let's. I want a contribution from everyone today. So if you haven't made one, you might want to start thinking about putting your hand up, Abby.
When it's like the falling interest in civilised conventions, it's like, a steady erosion of standards, it's like the destruction of past lives.
Yes, here, a steady. I sometimes lose my place. I'm looking at the screen and then I look down. A steady erosion of standards. A continuous decline. Good. Alex?
When it says to some extent this was forcing him, it's like he has a choice and he's choosing it to be this way.
Yes.
Stuff is like, to an extent it's awesome, but to an extent they also conform to it, they also
Right.
don't choose to act out against.
So that's something that's a bit different here, isn't it? You're going, well, hang on, why is he choosing to do this? Why doesn't he just leave the apartment? Why doesn't he just go out and get some food? So I'm going to make a freedom. Ooh. It's not just him, it's obviously the rest of the inhabitants here.
I think that's the Handmaid's Tale, like freedom to and freedom from.
Yeah. Bethany?
It's kind of like none of the neighbours cared and they didn't care about getting drunk. It's like they dismissed
Oh.
reality and like their methods of ignorance and maybe a way of escape from
Yes.
what really is their reality.
That word blunting. So when you're doing this, I want you to focus in, like the leaning comfortably is the bit. Well, why would you lean comfortably against a rubbish sack? That word blunting the sensibilities, his language coarsening. So that's a way of trying to escape the dystopian reality. Oops, I can't spell escape. Freya?
The idea of like physical breakdown, like a civilization breaking down being represented by physical change.
Lovely.
I think that there's a bit in that Time Machine podcast where they say the fact that the city is broken down shows that civilization is broken down.
Good. So, physical link to kind of civilization. I watched Joker on Saturday night, and that I'm assuming a lot of you've seen it. I'm not saying Gotham is a dystopian world, but it's certainly a world where things are going very bad, and that's represented by the rubbish piling up on the streets and just things, a community, a city not working together. Yeah. Connor?
It could like present a loss of identity, as it says, the apartment but his own personal habits and hygiene.
Yeah.
The fact that he's losing himself within this dystopian experience.
Yes.
Allowing himself to be indoctrinated, but he's just losing his actual own personality.
Good. Can someone, there's something a bit more interesting at the opening of that paragraph. Can anyone comment on that? Emily?
Well, I don't know if it's what I noticed that he says his sister had gone and then later when he talks about his friends about
Right.
like igniting for he talks about how little like they can't even talk about tragedy anymore, it doesn't exist, like it's odd that he has to know like when his sister's left he still has friends, he's like the one aspect of his normal.
So he's not as isolated as many dystopian characters are. Good. It's not the bit I was looking at, it's just the opening of this paragraph. Hannah?
It's not about what you're doing.
Alright.
I don't know if it's like what I got from it. You know when like it's soft bedded his own waste and like about his living conditions.
Mhm.
Just say it's kind of like showing what happens when there is a lack of control type thing. I don't know.
Well, that's exactly the one that I was looking at, yes. Reclining against this soft bed of his own waste, he felt like going to sleep. That strike you as a bit odd? Could you fall asleep next to a bin bag of your... Oh, just thought of my middle child and the state of her bedroom. She pretty much does it every night. Reclining... Oh, God, she's going to watch this one day, isn't she? He felt like going to sleep. With an effort, he roused himself. Does anyone know a good word for that? Begins with a T. To be in a state of... Of what? Tranquility suggests peacefulness, and I don't know if it's peaceful here. Torpor. Have you heard that word before? You lot probably feel like it every weekend. You know, when suddenly a whole Saturday has gone by, you haven't got dressed, moved off the couch. Bethany knows. Bethany, is that after one of your epic 12-hour sleep sessions as well? Maybe. She's confessing to nothing. What about this reference to the records? Do we know what records are? Yeah, because they're so retro now. Yeah. He had not played one of his carefully built-up library of records for weeks.
So just like in like a lot of other dystopias. Like they get rid of the books and all those parallels. But here, he still has them, but it's almost like the indoctrination is doing that for them because
Right.
it's like wanting to use them, so they don't even have to take them away.
So there's something unusual about this as a dystopian text because it's back to that idea of like choice, isn't it? That things are around them, but this state of torpor has completely taken over. And if records and music are a sign of kind of civilization and culture, then why is he rejecting it? Why is he turned away from it? Bethany?
It reminds me a bit of the fact that in 1984 there is no rules, there's no laws, but they know.
There are no laws, but there are punishments.
Yeah. It's a bit like they're there, but it doesn't mean I don't know.
Right. At this point, you know, I did a revision session at lunchtime looking at dystopian texts. Those revision sessions, by the way, are not just for second years. If you want to come along and do a bit extra, that's fine. And I was really trying to encourage the students to go with what you've just said there, Bethany. When you're like, I think I'm on something, I'm not really sure, I don't know where I'm going with it. That doesn't mean that you're wrong. It might just mean that you need to think about it a little bit more, push it a little bit more, see where you go with it. Okay, let's move on then. He picked at the thick rims of dirt. I'm just gonna... under his nails. That's a bit better. This decline, both of himself and his surroundings, was almost to be welcomed. In a way, he was forcing himself down these steepening gradients, like someone descending into a forbidden valley. The dirt on his hands, his stale clothes and declining hygiene, his fading interest in food and drink, all helped to expose a more real version of himself. Right, so I don't want anyone putting their hands up just yet. I want you to really focus in. What are the most interesting things in that passage, that paragraph? And what are they saying, potentially, about what Ballard is doing with the dystopian genre here? And I still haven't heard from Georgia, Abby or Logan. And only a little bit from Rhiannon. Not you, Abby, do you, Abby? Anyone then? Georgia, what might you focus us in on?
I was going to look at like the manipulation of like the behavioural patterns.
Manipulation of behavioural patterns. And so would you say that that's a common feature of the dystopian genre?
Yeah.
Yes, good. So, and you're going to say something about what's being done with it in this paragraph.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like the methods of indoctrination for like control. 'Cause I think with the whole like extracting genre, it's like that lack of conflict.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it in like when she woke, when there's all the mirrors on the wall.
Right.
Because it sort of stops any abstract thought, and that's the way of preventing like potential rebellion.
So in When She Woke, which is a link you make in there for your kind of proof and your context, she's completely surrounded. She's very uncomfortable in her surroundings, and it's the similar thing here. And you're linking it to control and power, but we don't know who or what is doing the controlling, who wants to be in power. And that's because the extract doesn't tell us, and of course that's all right. We're not expected to have read the book. But go on, there's a little bit more to it than that. You're on the right lines, Georgia. Ellie?
But do you like argue like about how we were saying about how they thought their diets, like how he's frail and how they only eat cabbage, like it keeps him subdued and like
Yeah.
to manipulate.
Yes.
And, like,
So the stale clothes and the decline in hygiene. Yeah. Go on, you're missing. What's the most important bit in this paragraph? Emily?
Was almost to be welcome.
So it starts there.
And then
This decline was almost to be welcomed.
the bit about being at a forbidden valley, it's like really juxtaposing like that it's to be welcomed, but also into forbidden value, like
Right.
being forbidden by.
Yeah, in a way, he was forcing himself down these steepening gradients like someone descending into a forbidden valley. So go on, Annie.
I don't know if this is right, but with the real version of himself, that all help to expose the real version of
Yeah.
himself, it's almost as if, like, he was whatever he was before, like the medical treatment, whatever was
Yeah.
the true version of himself, and whatever's controlling him, this whole, like, going on a steady climb down,
Yes.
and is exposing him.
So we've got something here about suffering and identity. Yeah, Bethany, then Freya.
Well, I thought like you always I kind of just think when it comes to dystopian, you think they're forced under control to hide who they are,
Yeah.
their identity. But then when you look different, like from a different point of view at Hanna's tale, it's like the way she's being controlled and kept makes her realise some things about herself, like true things about herself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. So
How she says she truly loved what was his name?
Luke.
Yeah, Luke. What's his name?
So we're starting to see some ideas here about the individual, about identity and suffering. Freya?
I was going from like in terms of like physical identity, like having a real fair about those conflicts in life,
Yes.
and about how like, a lot of identity as well as like you how you think, and it isn't material.
Right. So when you're stripped of those things, when you're stripped of materialism, of comforts, of hygiene, does the real you start to emerge because all you've got left is your personality and your identity? Is that what you're saying? That's a very good idea. Is everyone writing that down? Yes. Okay. Lang listened to the intermittent noises from the refrigerator. The electricity had come on again, and the machine was sucking current from the mains. Water began to trickle from the taps as the pump started to work. Spurring himself on with Alice's criticisms, Alice is his sister, Lang wandered around the apartment, doing what he could to straighten the furniture. But half an hour later, as he carried a garbage sack from the kitchen into the hallway, he suddenly stopped. He dropped the sack onto the floor, realising that he had achieved nothing. All he was doing was rearranging the dirt. Annie?
It reminds me of like the wives in Hanna's tale, where like, they talk about the knitting and like how
Right.
they're just gonna undo it and get it like done again over and over again. Like menial tasks to keep people busy so they don't.
Busy work. Yeah, but here, I mean, it's that. Sorry, I'm doing it for you now. But it's that realising. You know, does Serena ever realise that what she's doing, or does she not allow herself to confront that? Rhiannon?
I thought about realising that you've achieved nothing at all. It's kind of like one person in any dystopian society can't really do anything at all.
Right.
You can't have a rebellion with one person. Like, in 1981.
You can't have a rebellion if you're coming from a dirty flat, can you? You've got to know you've got something to come back to with that bullet in your head. Logan, anything else in that paragraph?
Not just that paragraph, but like bits before, like in the second one when he's talking about like the electricity supply, the garbage
Yeah.
system, he comes back to it and says this decline both of himself and his surroundings was almost to be welcomed. It's like this reliance on technology has led to this decline in laziness of like,
That's really interesting. So, so once the dishwasher stops working, well, of course, the dishes are going to pile up if you don't know. So something about an over-reliance on technology. Which is one of the key concerns of much dystopian fiction, isn't it? That technology's taking over. You're doing very well. I'm very pleased. Far more important was the physical security of the apartment, particularly while he was away. Lang strode down the long bookcase in the sitting room, pulling his medical and scientific textbooks onto the floor. Section by section, he wrenched out the shelving. He carried the planks into the hall, and for the next hour moved around the apartment, transforming its open interior into a homemade blockhouse. The kitchen into the bedroom. His resources were meagre, but would keep him going for several days. Bags of rice, sugar and salt, cans of beef and pork, and a stale loaf of bread. Right. Where are we going with that then? Poppy?
This could be a bit far-fetched, but in the Scrabble essay, the Handmaid's Tale,
Yep.
it talked about
Which I haven't forgotten about, by the way. We are going to go through that this week.
It talked about how Offred uses like puns and like play on words, think of different meanings for words, and that's kind of shown in the way he's using furniture for a different purpose than its original purpose.
It's a bit good. So, characters in dystopian texts often have to repurpose things in order to survive.
Yeah, it's like
I want a better word for things. Objects, ideals, beliefs have to be repurposed in order to repurposed or reimagined.
yeah.
Ooh, good one. And that's a link to The Handmaid's Tale. Good stuff. I mean, that word wrenched suggests that it's not easy to do, isn't it? And what about the fact that it's a hand-carved oak chest? Alex?
It just sort of juxtaposes what he's doing. It's something so like fantasy and like not fancy, but like delicate and like hard like working. He's just using it for a barricade. Like he's taking something that like.
So he's taking this beautiful luxury item, possibly a symbol of the
Upper class.
and an hand-carved oak chest might be a symbol of the past, yeah. And now it's being repurposed as this defensive item. Good, Annie.
I think you could all link like to identity with like the hand carved. It's almost like a personal
Yeah,
touch made by a single, like a human
yeah,
symbol. And how it's just being used as a barricade, it's losing its significance.
yeah. That's really good as well. Again, the examiner's not worried about you getting it kind of right. It's about you showing how do I think this might be working in this dystopian text. Symbol of past identity. Alex, you were talking like about the contrast with things there. Good. Poppy, you can say something else?
Well, it's kind of just adding on that it could link to the thing of like the real version of him, like his as the materialistic things are being repurposed.
Right.
And losing that connection to the past and how he used to be in his like identity.
Okay. Can we go for the obvious thing that no one's talked about then? What's the obvious bit in this paragraph? Why is he barricading him? Yeah. What does that tell you?
Like he's not safe. Like in our
Ah, that's interesting.
I was thinking that one of the like key quotes is that like about it was being a fence or something. Oh yeah, and I've said like we are already safe enough. It's like protection from.
Yeah, that's good. Which kind of suggests that there isn't any one thing or person in charge if he's having to fend for himself. Freya?
I thought it was about how when people are being involved in that school breakdown, people trust
Yeah, so that, I guess that links back to what Emily's saying about the failure of the dystopian regime, that they haven't indoctrinated people enough so that they won't rebel or attack one another. Very good. Yeah, so we've got that word barricade there. We've got meagre supplies. His medical and scientific textbooks, well, they're not needed in this world, are they? They're just going to be pulled to the floor. Now that the air conditioning had ceased, the room soon became stuffy. Recently, Lang had noticed a strong but not unpleasant smell, the characteristic odour of the apartment, himself. What's been suggested there about what he's kind of returning to? It's a word I thought Alex was going to talk about in what Lang is doing in that apartment. So he's not an over-reliance on technology, not taking care of himself. He's got like meagre provisions, that's enough. Not washing. He's becoming, go on Alex. Primitive, yeah. Yeah, primitive. Feral. He's like all of these aspects have been stripped away, and he says this smell isn't unpleasant. Right? So there's something here about, and that's that thing about kind of enjoying this dystopian, deliberately going into it like a forbidden valley, like a return to something. Annie?
Dystopians where they often talk about, like, in like the Handmaid's Tale, where it refers like back to the past as if it was better.
Yeah. So primitive, primal. Past is better. Who needs science and medicine when you can just barricade yourself into your room and sweat like a man? Was that a bit too passionate for you there? Would that be a science experiment in itself? Yeah. Lang stripped off his grimy sports shirt and washed himself in the last water flowing from the shower. He shaved and put on a fresh shirt and suit. If he visited the medical school looking like a tramp, he might give away to some sharp-eyed colleague what was actually going on in the high-rise. He examined himself in the wardrobe mirror. The gaunt, white-skinned figure with a bruised forehead standing awkwardly in an overlarge business suit looked totally unconvincing. Like a discharged convict in his release suit, blinking at the unfamiliar daylight after a long prison sentence.
Why is the water always running? I don't like.
Because he hasn't bothered to turn the taps off. He's had the taps on, nothing's come out, he's left it. Hannah?
Could you say how, like, you know, things on about you might give away to some sharp-eyed what was actually going on? Could you kind of link that to the Handmaid's Tale with, like, the teenagers if they don't realise that the extent of what's going on there? Like,
Oh yeah, that's lovely. So there are people who live outside of this dystopian world, but they don't know properly what's going on. Oh, I must paint my nails. Look at the state of that. Shocking. Yeah, good answer. Bethany, then Alex?
I was just going to say, kind of something, just like the naivety, or like, maybe it's not naivety, maybe it's ignorance.
Just ignorance that people don't want to see what's happening.
It could be a false sense of like hope for people who are like lower down. So you know it says like the higher you go up in high rise, the more like class you get. But it could be like he has to put on like a mask to look like to the lower class.
Well, there's definitely something about hiding his identity here, isn't there? Good. Alex?
Kind of like when you say like sharp-eyed colleague, it's sort of like not a like aggression towards it, like he doesn't want to be found out.
Yes.
Like them.
He
It's
doesn't.
sort of like
So he knows he might be scrutinised and he doesn't want to be revealed.
tribalism where he doesn't want to like reveal what goes on in the high-rise because like that's for them, not for the outside.
Yeah.
It's like their own thing. Their
Protective over it almost.
Like he doesn't enjoy it, but at the same time, like he doesn't want anyone else to know about it because it's like his thing, his identity.
Yeah, and actually this identity here, it's not working, it's unconvincing. We've got this lovely simile here, like a discharged convict. So that sense of the apartment being like a prison, being like a cell. Right. Sorry, that bit's just a bit of a typo thing. It's not on yours. Yeah, actually, we haven't discussed the fathers from 1975, the year of my birth. Point that out there. Great year. Because there's certainly something a bit different going on with this dystopia, isn't there, than some others. How would you feel if you got this in the exam? There's a lot to say, isn't there? There's a lot. Maybe not stuff that's quite as obvious as things like When She Walk or The Long Walk. That's why you've really got to trust yourself to reread it and go, right, hang on. And if it does feel weird, ask yourself why. You know, that question, why is he barricading himself in? Is he protecting himself from the outside, or is he just being defensive? Is he paranoid? So lots and lots to think about there. Okay.